While we've seen many mutants rise to the ranks of most popular, becoming staples of pop culture the world over, thanks to the stories they've appeared in and their overall design, not all mutants have become quite so iconic. In fact, some, it feels like, have been straight up shafted. I'm calling it out. Welcome back, Nerd Squad. It's me, Amanda McKnight, aka Vampex13, and this is the top 10 strongest X-Men who honestly deserve better. Who do you think deserves more time in the spotlight? Let us know down below. Number 10, Beast. Oh boy, Beast has been getting dunked on lately, and it has honestly been brutal to read. He might not be a powerhouse in terms of brute strength, but Beast is no slouch in a fight, thanks to his heightened dexterity, years of training, and his ability to pack a punch when needed. But really, his strengths as an X-Men member and former Avenger lie in the area of intellect, specifically in the field of science. And friends, before I move on to our next spot on this list, if you love what we do here at Top 10 Nerd, and if you love when I talk about X-Men, I love when I talk about X-Men, please support that by clicking like on this video. Seriously, it feeds the algorithm, it helps us, then I can talk more about X-Men. Number 9, Rogue. Rogue is one of those characters who I feel like is constantly shafted from the spotlight because of just how powerful she is, and now she's even more powerful since she reconciled with the trauma that was effectively holding back her powers. So while I was saddened to hear of this, it didn't surprise me when she ended up in a coma almost immediately after being drafted to the X-Men adjacent UK fantasy team Excalibur. Jonathan Hickman had specifically planned to do a Rogue-focused story and series that probably would have tied into the Krakoan-based second ever Inferno event. But alas, he left the X-Desk before this plan could come to fruition, meaning it kinda got abandoned. Sure, Rogue was on the X-Men, which was very nice to see, but at the same time, she's very much an ensemble member on that team, and she also left shortly after joining, honestly. So we still have yet to get that epic Rogue spotlight period that I was hoping for in the Krakoan era. Number 8, Multiple Man. Multiple Man is just such a great character when it comes to the comics. He deserves so much more, honestly. Well, he's appeared here and there, and he was a main character in the all too short-lived X-Corp series. We really haven't seen too much of him in this era. Granted, everything I have read involving him from the Krakoan era has been great. But of course, this just leaves me wanting more of him. His appearances in this era have often left me asking the question of, when are we getting another Jamie Madrox solo series, and why haven't we gotten volume 2 yet? He needs an ongoing solo series, guys. I'm just saying. I would read it, I'll buy it. Marvel, if you're watching, you got at least one buyer right here. I'm sure there's other people too. Multiple Man fans, let me know that you exist in the comments. Number 7, Psylocke. What has Psylocke even been up to lately? After years of being attached to Betsy Braddock, Quanon, who took the name Psylocke, has only recently been getting attention in the comics. This is because, well, for a while, she was too complicated and weird to talk about, to be honest. Betsy, you see, was put in Quanon's body, making her a Caucasian British lady appear Asian, which I think you can understand is weird and, to many, myself included, was considered to be culturally insensitive. That being said, both Quanon and Betsy are fantastic characters that don't deserve to be shelved just because of their awkward past connection to one another. Just because we made that choice for them, it doesn't mean that they deserve to just be forgotten. I want more for both of them. For Betsy, we've seen some of this in regards to her being declared as the new Captain Britain, but for Quanon, who decided to keep the codename Psylocke, her growth feels like it's kinda still ongoing and it kinda got a little stagnant. I loved her development in Hellions, and I'm still hoping to see more of this, so hopefully we get more Psylocke action. Number 6, Strong Guy. Strong Guy just hasn't been around much lately for me, and that's a crying shame. He literally is one of the strongest X-Men, I mean, it's in the name, and yet I haven't really seen him much lately in the X-books, save for a few appearances I read in X-Men Unlimited, the Infinity comic version of that series, launched back in 2021. In that story that I saw him in there, Strong Man goes on an adventure with his pal Multiple Man. It's good, but it's not really enough to satisfy me when it comes to Strong Man's presence in this current era, which has just been underwhelming. Number 5, Cannonball. Cannonball has been seemingly busy of late, focusing on his family life, but because of that, it's felt somewhat like he's been snubbed in the comics. For the last 4 years, the entirety of the Krakoan era thus far, he's not been doing very much. He did help out with the New Mutants as one of the original founding members, obviously. Almost made it onto the X-Men, being a candidate in the 2021 elections, but ultimately failed to be voted in and instead ended up joining the one-shot team Sunspot's Secret X-Men, which was a fun story, but hey, it's only a one-shot, you know? And then when he finally does get a moment of glory, voted onto the 2023 X-Men roster at the 2023 Hellfire Gala, he's immediately killed off. Rude. Hopefully we'll see some redemption for Cannonball following the fall of X, but honestly, it's sad that he didn't get his moment in the spotlight really during one of the greatest X-Men eras I've yet to read. a little disappointing. Number 4, Dazzler. Alison Blair has to be one of my favorite X-Men of all time, which is why I was, of course, surprised when I discovered that after her solo series, she never really did too much, nor caught on in terms of popularity. Alison has always kind of been on the outside of heroics for the most part, as in her series and often in her life, she's more focused on working on becoming a superstar and using her mutant talents to skyrocket herself and her band to stardom as a professional musician and singer. However, this is also why I was so surprised after reading her solo series and getting used to that depiction of her to see how different she had become in Inferno. By that time, Dazzler had turned into a short-haired rocker who was also a reluctant member of the X-Men. Alison has always been a reluctant hero, but when it comes to heroics that she gets tossed into, she also always rises to the task, and some folks don't seem to nail this characterization when it comes to her depiction, which ultimately leaves fans like me kind of disappointed. Like, I want to see Alison working on her career, but I want to see her pulled into stuff, and then she basically has to rise to the challenge. You know what I mean? That's my favorite Dazzler. Number 3, Archangel. Archangel might not be one of the first people that comes to your mind when you think strongest X-Men, but I would argue that he is one of the strongest when it comes to the areas of experience and business. And if we're considering Warren Worthington III in his Archangel form, which he has been like in and out of consistently throughout the Krakoan era, though masking it all the while as best he can, Angel never gets enough love. And X-Corp was far too short of a series for me. So yeah, I want more X-Corp and I want just more Angel. He never gets enough love. Number 2, Rockslide. Rockslide, or rather Wrongslide, as he's known now, although technically that's a different character, feels like he was built up just to be taken away from us. We never saw too much development for him in this era until he was about to be shafted and taken away. Actually, there wasn't even development. It was like he showed up and then gone. He was one of the first to fall victim to the surprising effects of dying in Otherworld, which we'd later learn severely messed with the mutants' resurrection protocols of the Krakoan era. Ultimately, this resulted in him being seemingly destroyed permanently in such a way that it was believed he could never be resurrected again. However, the mutants refused to give up on those who had fallen during the Otherworld tournament and the events leading up to it, and managed to find a way to resurrect their fallen. But unfortunately, dying in Otherworld had left them forever changed when they returned. And many of the characters that were changed as a result kind of faded into the background thanks to them being so different. Rockslide being one of them, who now is Wrongslide, which like I said, isn't even technically Rockslide, so yeah. Number 1, Gorgon. Gorgon was never really a member of the main X-Men team, long being considered more of an X-Men villain and assassin who was often in the employ of the Yakuza or Hydra, I believe. He is often considered one of the most deadly mutant assassins in the comics, with his mutant power allowing him to turn people to stone if they dare look him in the eye. However, while he wasn't part of the main good guy X-Men team, he has been a member of the Dark X-Men, and I'm gonna count that because my list. During the Krakoan era, he also turned over a new leaf, choosing to join the Mutant Nation and become an ally to all of mutant kind, working as part of the Quiet Council's security detail. Unfortunately, his deadly powers and skills were not enough to keep him safe during the Otherworld tournament. And, like Wrongslide, Gorgon was forever changed by his death in the Otherworld tournament, with him coming back with basically the mind of a child. In this new form, he played a role in Way of X, that series, but it also seems that the Gorgon so many of us loved may actually be forever lost, because he's once again been permanently changed by that resurrection. That's about it. Until next time, you stay nerdy, YouTube.